The Trump administration is facing a new lawsuit this morning. Longtime national security lawyer Mark Zaid, who represented a whistleblower during President Trump's first impeachment trial, is suing the administration for revoking his security clearance. Zaid's clearance was removed along with other prominent officials as part of a March executive order. And Mark Zaid is joining us now, along with his personal attorney, Margaret Donovan. Thank you both for being here. Mark, for those of us who may not understand how security clearances work for lawyers, just how much has this impacted you and the work you do?
Fairly significantly. I mean, a lot of my clients are covert spies for the United States government, folks who work at the CIA and elsewhere within the intelligence community, and I cannot represent them for the most part now. I work a lot on anomalous health incident cases, what people know as Havana syndrome. I don't like the term, but that'll explain it. And I use my security clearance to represent many of those people, especially for whistleblowers. So it is a key facet in what's going on. I don't even look at it as harming me as much as it harms federal employees and workers who I represent.
So, Margaret, what is the argument you're making on behalf of Mark in this case? And have you heard anything from the Trump administration so far?
Sure, Anna. So the security clearance adjudication process, that's been developed over the past several decades in response to other presidents' executive orders, Supreme Court case law, and other case law. And so the Trump administration has basically ignored all of that and just summarily revoked Mr. Zaid's clearance. And so our lawsuit is basically asking a court to declare the March 22nd memorandum unconstitutional, to declare it unconstitutional as to Mr. Zaid, and to rescind the revocation. And to answer your question, no, we haven't heard anything back from the Trump administration yet.
And Mark, as you've discussed, you're not the only one who's had your security clearance revoked. The president also did the same for his predecessor, former President Biden, as well as Hillary Clinton, just to name a couple. But what is the danger in this being used as a political punishment?
Well, that's a real austere list, and I am honored, I suppose, to be along presidents and vice presidents and attorney generals, et cetera. I'm not one of them, right? I'm not political. I have never been an elected official in the U.S. government. I've never been an appointed official. I'm a registered independent for my entire life, whereas everyone else there is political. So what this action has been is strictly a political vindictive action against those who are perceived or actually serving as adversaries against this administration. I've been holding administrations accountable since the Clinton administration, over 30 years. I do nothing differently from one administration, Republican or Democrat, to the next. The difference is this administration can't take that, apparently.
So you believe you have been targeted because of being a perceived adversary. Well, President Trump was asked about that by our Kristen Welker, about dissent and criticism. Listen to his response.
Do you see dissent as an essential part of democracy?
It's a part of democracy. It is. You're
is
always
it an
going to have
important
dissent.
part of democracy?
Yeah, you're always going to have, Kristen, you're always going to have dissent. There's nothing you're going to do about that.
Do you think people should have the right to criticize you without fear of reprisal?
Absolutely, yeah, I do. That I do.
Mark, your reaction to that?
Well, Trump the Butcher is not speaking the truth. And I say Trump the Butcher because Dick the Butcher was a character in Shakespeare's Henry VI who said, let's kill all the lawyers because the lawyers get in the way of authoritarianism. And that's exactly what's going on here. He talks about essential. It's not essential. Dissent's fine as long as it's not against him. In his administration. So, he already says when he talks about, for example, ending the Ukraine-Russian war, he just said it in jest. So you can't believe anything he says. Actions speak louder than words. And if dissent was allowed, I would still have my security clearance.
Margaret,
as I have had for 25 years.
Right. And so with this suit, what is the end goal here, Margaret?
Anna, the end goal is that we preserve our adversarial system of government and the legal system generally. So as Mark said, this not only targets Mark, this targets federal employees who would have turned to Mark. It's also having the effect of chilling other lawyers from representing government employees. And that's something that we simply can't tolerate, and we hope a court will agree.
Mark, are you concerned that should you win, the Trump administration will just ignore the ruling?
I think that I've said that on this network that, I think we are on the verge of a true constitutional crisis when the Trump administration refuses a court order. We've already seen indications of that. We'll see what happens once a Supreme Court ruling is ignored. But I do think that is a real concern, just as we saw in President Jackson, Andrew Jackson, way back in the 1830s administration. And there's a reason why President Trump has a portrait of Andrew Jackson hanging in the Oval Office.
Mark Zaid, thank you so much for sharing your perspective, for joining us to talk more about your lawsuit. Margaret Donovan, thank you for being with us as well.